Trek's Red Barn Refresh is a relatively new certified used bike program where you can get used bikes for 20 to 40% off retail price shipped directly to your door if that door is in the United States. Since I test bikes here on the ride, Trek sent me a used checkpoint to check out how this new program works. Like all my test bikes, no, Trek did not pay me to review this. And like all my test bikes, yes, this will be shipped back to the manufacturer after I'm done. If you want to learn more about how I make money testing bikes, you can watch that video. The short of it is my sponsors allow me to test bikes honestly without taking money, and you can see who those sponsors are in the description below. So let's dig in to how this bike is shipped, and I'll compare this process to other used options you've got out there, such as the Pros Closet, eBay, of course. Bicycle is a relatively new player based out of Germany, and there's also Bicycle Blue Book. So let's dig in the box and see what we've got to work with. Hopefully this whole thing isn't going to come tumbling down on us here. We'll probably have to move to the work stand. But the graphics up top say just open it up and fold it down. Ta-da! Written on the bike box says, Happy New Bike Day. Build your bike on this cardboard rug. If this bike was used, it was only very, very lightly used. We've got a couple little scuffs here. Yeah, we got Dixon's paint. Okay, so it's not a brand new bicycle. Like Pros Closet, like Bicycle, the Red Barn Refresh has photos of each bike, including photos of where there are nicks and such, and then there's some mechanics notes about blemishes or any other issues that the bike may have. The thing is called certified used in that Trek mechanics look over each bike and they're not going to send you a busted, broken down machine. And you've got 30 days to send the thing back if for whatever reason you're not happy with it. So that's something that you don't necessarily get when you're buying from an individual. And it's pretty similar to what you get with Pros Closet. Pros Closet most notably, and the same with Bicycle, it's not limited to just a single brand. So that's the biggest difference, is that this is the first major manufacturer to offer a used bike, a certified used bike program. Interesting that this program launched in tail end of last year, tail end of 2023. Trek, like basically every single company in the industry now, is feeling the sting of what was a COVID rise and now is a huge slump. They have cut their SKUs, their number of products, by 40%, which is ginormous. So it's an interesting time to be buying and selling bikes. Let's pull the rest of this guy out here. Timber. So basically, brake lines are connected, drivetrain is fully attached. They've even gone through the trouble of putting back on the pieces that I suppose they're required by law to have on bikes, like the reflectors front and rear, and then even on the wheels. Ta-da! Behind the cardboard box is my humble workshop. Basically all you got to do after pulling the thing out is put the handlebar on the stem and put on the front wheel, then put on your own pedals and cages. So from first looks, it's a pretty easy build. So that's nice and tidy. Hello from Waterloo. It's a little tool kit. Let's see what we got in here. Words of encouragement. Di2 charger, a torque of 5, a second torque wrench of 7 Newton meters, and a thing of grease. Pretty similar, maybe not quite as robust as what you get from Canyon when you're building your own bike, as torque is clearly an important thing when you're tightening down carbon parts. All right, I got my fancy tool storage devices known as my shoes coming back from the Indianapolis wind tunnel where we were building bikes and inside the tunnel. I'm a fan of wheels with just simple axle levers. I know it looks slicker to not have them. And wind tunnels like the ones in Indianapolis and elsewhere will tell you that having this tiny little thing can cause a tiny bit of drag, but it's just nice to be able to pull the wheel off without digging out a separate tool. Oh. Di2, gotta love it. How many collective hours of our lives have we spent as the bike biz installing these silly spoke protectors and then removing said silly spoke protectors? It's things like this that put me in the libertarian camp of like, man, this is what excessive regulation gets us, is wasted plastic and wasted time. Missing a cog. Got a cog loose. Missing more than a cog, I'll tell you that. There we go, that looks better. As with many new bikes, this comes with tubes, but is set up for tubeless, so I'll deal with that also. See another dig here where the disc brake, presumably the disc brake or something, is taking some paint off the stay here. It is remarkably clean. Like I said, the drivetrain looks brand new, could be brand new. The frame is immaculately clean. You have to take a close look to find the digs. How much of this is set up because it was being sent to media, and how similar or dissimilar is that from a bike that would go to a normal consumer? Who's to say? I would hope that Trek would deliver this level of cleanliness to all its customers, right? I wish this came with an integrated blender mount that clips onto the bar in between the two pieces of the stem face bolt. That's a slick little addition. Maybe I've got a blender thing in my kit. Let's go take a peek. So I do have some blender pieces, which are nice in that they clip in onto the bar, kind of into the front of the stem between the two face mounts. You can put on your lights or GoPro or whatever underneath, and then you got a shorty or a long guy. We'll put on the long john, I guess. Of course, I thought of this after I already bolted the thing together like a dum-dum. Just getting ready to wax the chain, and upon closer inspection, pulling the thing off, no, it's not new. It just Really looks like it on the side. So nice work cleaning this up, whoever did so at Trek. Gonna strip it down, wax it up, pop it back on, and put some cages on, then we'll be off and running. Fast forward a few months, it's now June. Put a few hundred miles on this bike, and now there's about 300 used bikes on Trek's Red Barn Refresh site. Let's do a little review on the Checkpoint in general, and in this model in particular. Checkpoint is generally an overall excellent gravel bike, if a little on the chonkier side. This 56, for instance, dressed as such, weighs 20 pounds, which is definitely on the heavier side. In terms of build, this has got the 11-speed GRX Di2. You guys have probably seen my video on the 12-speed version. Honestly, I kind of prefer the feel of this 11-speed just because it's a little bit smaller up here, but functionality is pretty darn similar. You just got, you know, a difference of a single cog in the back, and you don't have the built-in D-Fly. That's what this little guy is. I plug it in here so the buttons can talk to the Garmin. But otherwise, 11-speed GRX, 12-speed GRX, pretty darn similar, and both excellent. If you like a 2x gravel group, which I do, it's a good option. You know, there are a few drawbacks like limited chain ring sizes, no power meter, but all in all, it's a very strong gravel group. The wheels, I tested these and a few other wheel sets, including the new DT Swiss GRC 1100s. Video coming on that, thanks for your patience. And I also rode these with the Bird wheels, the Bird Sparrows, which have the shoestring-like spokes. Also video coming on that guy. But let's talk Checkpoint, right? This is a longer, what many call progressive geo, in that the reach is a good, you know, at least centimeter longer than other modern gravel bikes. If you don't speak reach, let's talk top tube. This is a 56 centimeter bike, which once upon a time meant 56 here and 56 here. This guy is a 58.4 centimeter top tube, so with a 90 stem, which for me looks pretty short, is still a long, relatively long bike. I'm 6 foot for reference, 76 centimeter saddle height. A lot of you guys ask how big I am when you're trying to fit. Don't go off of me, go off of what is appropriate fit for you. There's another way that buying a Trek bike through Trek can be beneficial, in that you can go to your local Trek shop and get fit by the Trek folks, and then either buy there or buy online and have these guys shipped direct to you. But just for reference, that's where I am. Like many gravel bikes these days, this has the internal storage, which is generally a positive thing. You know, like if you got this space, might as well use it for something. It's not the fastest way to deal with stuff. So for flat fixings, especially if you're in an event, it's better to have them, you know, on your body is what I prefer. Like having the Dynaplugs on the biker body and the CO2 in your pockets so you can grab it, and then other stuff here, because this, as I'm going to demonstrate here, awkwardly wrestling with it, it's a good storage spot, but you know, you're just gonna have to wrestle with it to get all your stuff out and then back in. But it's handy to have. So often I'll just have this as a backup, so if and when I'll do something like forget to put a saddlebag on because I'm constantly switching bikes, or forget that the CO2 in there has been used, it's good to have backups. And some people also use this as a place to tuck a rain jacket, like a shake dry rain jacket. Something that you probably forget is even in there until you need it, and then it's handy to have. Brake lines are visible in here. You can hear them rattling around. They're tied down in one spot. You can also hear my dog Mabel yelling back there. But if you leave this empty, you might hear that thwacking around. So it's good to stuff it with something. And then there's a place for a multi-tool, which is, I have no idea where at this point. Sorry, Trek. Hopefully I can find that. Speaking of things thwacking around, my biggest beef with this particular build, the little connectors on the hydraulic lines are right underneath the stem, and every time you hit a bump, which is quite often riding gravel, these things thwack up against the stem. So I don't begrudge a mechanic not wanting to rerun brake lines and just putting new pieces up top and connecting them, fine. But just either put the connector somewhere else or maybe put some padding in between those and the stem, because that's obnoxious. Trek Checkpoint's signature piece, along with many other Trek drop bar bikes, is the ISOSpeed decoupler, which basically means you've got more flex here. It means that the seat mast has a bit more movement than just this space might have you think, because this can move ever so slightly. It's a good system. I think having flex in the seat post or seat mast is ideal gravel suspension for many of us, and that it adds a bit of cushion without adding much complexity. Up front, no, this is not front ISOSpeed. This is just a relatively tidier way to run the hoses and Di2 line down into the frame with a little rubber protector to keep some of the water out. So this is one of the cleaner front end designs I've seen. We're seeing a lot of brands going with this semi-integrated, in that the internal lines are in the frame, but then they're external to the bar and stem, which I appreciate for being able to swap out different bars and stems, especially if you're buying used. That's a good thing, to be able to pop on a different stem, raise, adjust height, etc. But then many will have just an open space where the lines run down into the frame, which makes me wonder, where's all that water going? Straight onto your headset bearing. So this is a tidy solution. Just need to have those connectors fine-tuned. I've got to consult the notes here. So I've tested a few different checkpoints over the years. First time I did Unbound Gravel was on a checkpoint, which was a good bike for the job. I was irritated that I couldn't get a left crank stages meter on there, so I went with the right side power meter. Also tested what I thought was this very bike when I started to pull it out, because it was this design that I tested for the top end SLR 9 Axis with SRAM Red. That bike, $12,000, and I'm pretty sure that exact bike is now on the Red Barn Refresh site for $7,700. It's got the integrated bag, which I love. One thing that is almost cooler than the internal storage is a bag. There's little bolts on the underside of the frame, so you don't have to run Velcro, which for me and probably many of you, like Velcro up here ends up like grabbing at your shorts, which is no bueno. So having a bag that is custom made for this, which is something Trek certainly swiped from smaller builders who were doing it first, but it's a cool thing to see. Anyhow, that SLR 9 I tested. You can look at the video above for when I rode that at Roubidoux Rendezvous, which is in Gering, Nebraska, similar to the course for USA Cycling's Gravel Nationals. The listing for that bike says it was used for show and display purposes only, you know, inferring that it wasn't ridden. That bike was definitely ridden, whether it was by me or somebody else, and you can see, looking at the detailed photos, that there's little nicks in different places on the frame. So all that to say, I don't think Trek is trying to pull a fast one. It was probably just a copy-paste error as they were going through uploading many of these bikes. But buyer beware, as always, and just use your eyes and look at the photos that are supplied, whether that's on Red Barn Refresh or Pro's Closet or Bicycle. Just anyhow, interesting to see a bike that I tested on site. What's the price of this one? I don't know, because it's not on the site at the moment. I can say that new, this particular model, is $8,600 and is now on sale for just under $8K. A lot of money for a bike. But I would guess this would probably be in the $6K or so range for the used version. Trek being Trek and not an individual, they've got the benefit of being able to pull some parts out. So for instance, the tires were new, the wheels were new, the cranks, I assume because of the Shimano recall, were new. The rest of the parts were used. So in all, I think it's pretty reasonable to save a few $1,000s to get a used bike, especially if you can get it from the original manufacturer who can do the refurbishing. Yes, you're gonna get some nicks and dings, but you're getting a bike that effectively, at least in this case, rides like new, and in fact does have, you know, new rubber and some new parts. My wife and I have had a number of cars over the years, and I've only bought a single one new, 22 years ago when our son was born. Every car since we've bought used, like this 2012 Toyota Highlander out there. We've also bought a used car from a friend. So buying used cars is how we roll. I would happily buy a used bike from a friend or a business I could trust if I could save a few $1,000s and have good confidence in the bike itself. As I'm in no need of a bike at the moment, I've got literally more test bikes than I know what to do with. I'm gonna pack this back up, put the box in my used car, drive it back to FedEx, and perhaps you can buy this bike or something like it. As always, I appreciate you watching, I appreciate you subscribing, and frankly, I don't care where you buy your bike, as long as you get out there and enjoy the ride.